In this video of JavaScript, we are going to start the switch statement. As in the previous video, we noticed if we are passing multiple conditions using if statement, each condition is being checked one by one only if the previous conditions were false. But if I'll talk about the switch statement, here the things are quite different, as initially we will pass any expression or a variable and that will be having that will return a particular type of value, and on the basis of that value type I will add the multiple cases. Whichever is the appropriate case is there in the switch statement, that particular case statement will get executed. As here you can see, it is not coming one by one, it will directly come onto that respective case. But if none of the case is satisfying the switch, then the control will come to the default block. So let's see practically how can we start writing this switch statement. So in this particular program, what I'm doing is I'm taking a single character from the user and I'm comparing whether that is a vowel or a consonant. So for doing that, first of all, I'm taking a user input using the prompt box, and we'll make sure like whenever we'll enter something, it will just be a single character, and I'm storing that in a variable called ch. So after taking the value, I'm passing this ch in this switch argument so that whenever this switch statement will be executing, only the value of this particular expression or variable will be compared. Apart from this switch ch, we can also pass an expression, maybe using any operators. But here I'm just passing the single value, but it must be evaluating a value. So here what you can see is I'm just checking it with the case keyword. So I'm checking whether the value inside the switch is A or E or I or O or U. So whichever value would be there in this switch variable, the ch variable, that particular statement will get printed. For example, if I'll enter O, so O is vowel will be printed. But as I said earlier, whenever this execution will take place, the line by line case checking will not be happening, but the control will directly fall into this particular case which is getting satisfied with the value stored by this variable. So let's execute first and see how this output is running like. So yep, here is the file. So here I'm entering a value, let's say O, and here you can see the message O is vowel. If I'll enter anything apart from A, E, I, O, U, you can see the message special character or consonant. But where does it comes from? It is coming basically from the default. Like in the if statement, when all the conditions are false, at last the else statement gets executed. Similarly, in the switch, when all the cases are false, finally the control will fall in the default statement. As I said, it is not getting executed line by line, so most of the time we put the default in the last, but basically syntactically you can put it in any particular position. So let's execute it again. I'll refresh it and I'll pass U. So again you see U is vowel is printed. So basically what's the reason? If I have placed default before the case U, then if it is executing line by line, then this default statement must be printed. But as I said, like whichever case is particularly getting satisfied with this particular value evaluated from this variable or expression, that case will be printed from here. So that is why we can see the output is still fine even if we have placed the default before the case. If you have multiple cases on which you want to execute the same set of statement, you can shorthandly write this switch statement like this. As here you can see I have placed all the cases like case A, E, I, O and U all together, and after that here I am giving a common definition, and still I am using this break keyword in order to terminate the particular case. So here this ch means whichever value you will be entering, if it is a part in this list like A, E, I, O, U, then that particular value will be printed along with is vowel message. So when I'll re-execute this, you can see still it is working fine, like E is vowel, then if I'll enter I is vowel. Alright, and if I'll enter anything else, then special character or consonant. So this is how we have written this program of switch, and this is how it executes. So you can basically use this switch statement whenever you are making some menu like options in your program or in any interface where you want to put the multiple matchings using the case. In this video of JavaScript, we are going to start the operators. As so far in the JavaScript implementation, we have seen like how can we define a variable and can set a value either at compilation time, that is while writing the code, or at runtime, that is by using the prompt box. But once the value is assigned, if I want to do some operations such as I want to add a couple of numbers or I want to compare a couple of numbers whether which one is greater or smaller, I can do that all by using the operators. As operator is nothing but a symbol which tells the system that which particular task need to be performed in that particular data on which you are applying the operator. So the operator is the symbol, and the things on which the operator would be applied will be called the operand. For example, if there are a couple of variables where A and where B, and we are saying like A plus B, so plus is the operator and A and B are the operands on which the operator is being applied. In JavaScript, we have a vast list of the operators, and using individual operators we can perform the specific tasks. So on the basis of the operands, these operators can be classified as the unary operator, means a single operand operator, binary operator means the operator having two operands, or ternary operator means the operators having three operands. But functionally we can classify into these categories such as the assignment operator. We have already seen the assignment operator, that is the equals to symbol, where we have assigned the value to a particular variable, like where A is equal to 2. So this equals to variable or equals to operator will assign the value 2 to the variable A. Apart from that, we do have the arithmetic operator, comparison operator, logical operator, and again ternary operator. So let's have a look about these operators individually. As in arithmetic operators, you can see like plus, minus, multiplication, that is for asterisk, slash, forward slash for division, and a percentage symbol for the modulus. Means if you want to add two numbers, you want to subtract, you want to multiply, you divide two numbers. For example, you say 5 divided by 2. So what will happen? In the quotient it will be 2, in the remainder it will be 1. So the slash will take the quotient part, means the division operator will take the quotient part, while the modular symbol will take the remainder part. So both are related to the division only. One is dealing with the quotient, another one is dealing with the remainder. But rather than this discussing here, let's see all of these things practically. So for getting started with the arithmetic operators, I will take a couple of variables like num1, I'll assign some value such as 40, and num2, in which I will assign again some value like 10. Now, as we have already discussed about the arithmetic operators like plus, minus, multiplication, division, and modulus, so let's do them very quickly. I am not taking any variable, I am just printing the results directly. You can actually take a variable and can assign some value into that if you want to reuse that value further. So what I do here is num1 plus num2, and here I'm just adding these two numbers. Very similarly, I'll do some more tasks like subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and finding the modulus. So before proceeding, let's break the line for each. like this, and let's see the output now. So here 40 plus 10 is 50, 40 minus 10 is 30, 40 multiplied by 10 is 400. When you will divide 40 with 10, in quotient you will get 4 and in remainder it's 0. So like this, all the operators are working perfectly. Now let's do it in another ways. Like for example, if I say var result is equal to num1 plus num2. So the result will be assigned to the result variable, alright, and you can now print that particular value like this. And it will work like same. But if you want to do some shorthand operation like things, you can do that as well. But for that, let's take some other scenario. Like here, what I'm doing is I'm just incrementing the value of num1 to an extent. For example, num1 is equal to num1 plus 5. What it will do? It will simply add the 5 in the current value of num1, which is 40, and will change the current value, that is the new value, to 45. So now if I will print the value of num1, you will get 45. But for the same thing, I can actually write it like this also, that is plus equals to. That means the same and will give you exact same output like this. It's again giving you 45. Now let's talk about the operator precedence. So for that, what I'll do, I'll just take one more variable called result, and now what I'll do is 10 plus 5 into 20. So now when I will print the value of result, what it will do is, first of all, since the multiplication precedence is higher than the plus, so first of all 5 will get multiplied to the 20, which will result you 100, and then this 100 would be added to the 10, which will give you 110 in the output. But if you want to change the precedence, you can put them in the parentheses, so the precedence of parentheses is always higher. So now this 10 plus 5 would be done, that is the 15, and then that 15 would be multiplied to 20, which will give you 300, like this. Alright, so this is about the operator precedence. Now let's change the value of the variables of numeric types using the single operators or the unary operators, that is plus plus or minus minus. So here, as we have already discussed, like whenever you will use this plus plus operator, it will actually make the increment by 1. So now when I'll refresh, you can see it's 11, and they come into two varieties. This is the post increment, and if you'll put the plus plus before, it will be a pre-increment. Let's talk about the difference. Since here I have used plus plus num, that means it is pre-increment and the increment will be done before the value is getting assigned to the result. So before the assignment, the increment would be done, that is num will become 11, and then that 11 would be assigned to result. So in this particular case, both the values would be having 11. Let me break the line to get the clear output. Right, like this. But in case if I'll go for the post increment, that will give you a different result. In this particular case, since it is the post increment, that means the assignment would be done before the increment. So by the time the value of num would be assigned to the result would be having 10, and after this assignment the value of num would be incrementing, so the num will have the 11. So when you will print the value of result, it will give you a 10, and while num will give you 11. Let's check it out. The same result which I was talking about. And very similarly, you can do it for the minus minus operator as well, as the way of using the pre and post increment or decrement is going to be very same. Now let's talk about the logical operators. Suppose you have multiple conditions to compare and you want to merge them up. So here we have two binary logical operators such as the and or. If you have two conditions and you want to check like both conditions must be satisfied, only then I want to do some operation. For example, if I'm doing the login thing, so I want the username and password both must be same in order to do the login. So for that I will go for the AND operator. But if you are okay with any of the condition should be satisfied, then you can go for the OR operator. But if you want to just reverse the condition, that is if you want to make true to false and false to true, we can go for the logical NOT operator, which is a unary logical operator. So let's see practically how can we start working with the logical operators now. Now here in this video, along with the logical operators, we are also implementing the ternary operator. So first of all, let's have a look in the ternary operator. So what I have done here, this question mark and this colon both are comprising the ternary operator. Ternary operator, which means the operator having three operands. So the first operand is the complete condition, which will return you a Boolean value that is either true or false. If the result is true, then the second operand, or if the result is false, then the third operand is returned. So basically in this particular operator, the first operator is evaluated, the first operand is evaluated, and according to that the second or third operand will be returned to this particular variable. So what I'm doing here, I have taken a couple of variables for you, taking the user ID and password, and I have used the prompt box for that. So as soon as user will enter, I will check like whether user ID and password, if both the conditions are true. So as per the AND operator, it will return you a true when both of the conditions are true. So as whenever we do the login, the username and password both must match in order to get a successful login result. So if both are correct, so this AND operator will return you the true, and in that case I will assign welcome in the message. And similarly, if any of these will be incorrect, so this AND operator will return you a false, resulting to which the invalid user string will be assigned to the message variable. So let's run it and see the output. So now it's saying welcome, but if I'll enter anything incorrect, as you were saying earlier as well, so it will say invalid user. So that's what I discussed, like when each of the condition is false, then it will return you a false. Now what if I want to go for the OR operator? So let's change the program to a bit. So in this program what I have done is I am taking a username in this program using the prompt box, and after that I am comparing, means when you use the OR operator, obviously this single variable cannot have both the values at a time. So surely only one condition is going to return a true while other will return a false, or maybe both conditions will be false. But even if a single condition is returning you a true, this OR operator will just return you that true, and accordingly I will be getting welcome or invalid user. So let's save it and run it. So now what I'll do, I'll enter, it's saying welcome, again I'll refresh, it's saying welcome, but if I'll enter anything apart from that, you see it's invalid user. Alright, so this is what I can do using this OR operator. But if I'll talk about the NOT operator, it is a simple unary operator, like I assigned this NOT operator right here. So it is going to behave just reverse. So let's see how it's going to behave now. So now when I'll enter, it will say invalid. Apart from that, if I'll enter anything, it's going to say welcome. That's what I said. This NOT operator will simply return the true to false and false to true. It will simply reverse the result of the condition. Now let's have a look on the comparison operators. We have these 6 operators for comparing the value, such as the double equals to, single equals to is the assignment operator, while double equals to is the comparison operator, which compares the whether two values are equal or not. If the values are equal, it will return a true, otherwise false, and very opposite is a not equals to operator. Greater than when you want to compare the greater value, lesser than when you want to compare the lesser value, and very similarly greater than equals to, less than equals to. It will compare the greater as well as the equality. So all these operators will compare two values and will always return a boolean, either true or false, on the basis of the comparison made. So let's see practically how can we start implementation of these operators. Now for implementing the comparison operator, what I have done, I have simply taken a variable and using the assignment operator I have assigned a value called 100. It's a fixed value, and now I have used all the comparison operator, that is double equals to for comparing the equality, not equals to, greater than equal to, less than equal to, greater than, and less than. So when I'll say that num1, which is currently 100, is equal to 10, so obviously it will give you a false. Though JavaScript is not a type safe language, but whenever you will compare a condition, it will return a boolean data, either true or false, and in this particular case it will give you a false. But in the next statement, when you will say that num1, which is 100, is not equal to 10, so obviously 100 is not equal to 10. In this particular case, it will give you a true. As we know, 100 is greater than 10, so when you will say num1 is greater than or equals to, so in this particular case, if the value of num1 is either equals to or greater than 10, so the result will be true. Since it is greater, it is going to return you a true. But since 100 is not less than 10, so it will give you a false. Similarly, the same will happen in these cases, like 100 is greater than 10, so a true, and 100 is not lesser than 10, so it is a false. Basically, the difference between the greater than and greater than equals to is like it will give you a false even though the num1 and 10 both are having the same value. That is, if I'll make it to 10 and 10 is greater than 10, will give you a false. But if I'll say 10 is greater than or equal to 10, so since it is equal to, it will give you a true. Let's check out the output now, since we should get the false true true, false true false. So let's refresh this, and false true true, false true false. The same output which we predicted is here. In this video of JavaScript, we are going to begin a very important concept called functions. As in the introduction, we have noticed like JavaScript is functional, and now we are going to implement that thing. So what is a function? Basically, whenever I am talking about a function, it will contain a set of statements which perform a specific task. Specific task means, for example, I want to take the student list, want to take some marks, want to calculate the total percentage, want to find the grades. So I can do each individual thing in a separate task, so that whatever the code I will be writing will become modular. Let's take a real life example. When I am going to an ATM to withdraw some cash, what happens is I will swipe my card. Maybe I am just going to check my balance. So just checking balance is what? Is a method. Whenever I'll do that, it will be called, and the amount which I have in my account will be told. But when I'll go to withdraw some amount, even though internally it will find like how much amount I have internally in my account, so that if I will try to withdraw more than that available amount, it will not allow me to do. Alright, so that is what happens with the functions also. Whenever I want to write a logical program, I can split each and individual task in a separate function, so that whenever I want, I will call that particular function. Alright, if you have just defined the function and you are not calling it, it will not be executed. So make sure whenever you are writing a function, you will have to call it whenever you want to make it executed. Now, once you have written the function, you may call it once, you may call it twice, or any time you want. In short, I can say it provides you reusability. It also makes your code modular. Modular means your code is now clear and individual function, and each function is doing a separate task. So you can easily split your overall functionality in the small modules. Now, let's again take the example of ATM. That ATM machine is having some of the functionality, but I have to swipe a card which tells from which account it has to do the processing. Means after swiping my card, if I withdraw some amount, the amount will be deducted from my account only, not from any others. So even if I have a predefined functionality, I may come across a situation like I want to pass some value, so that the functionality will be happening in that given value only. So whenever I want to pass a value, I can pass it through the parameters. So while defining the function, you will notice when I'll define that, I can pass some functions and parameters as well, so that whenever I want to supply some value from the calling environment means when I'm invoking that. So if I want to pass some specific value, I can do that. For example, if I'm defining a function which is adding two number 2 plus 4, so it will always give me 6. Alright, but if I allow parameters should be there in the function, so what can I do? Every time when I call that function, I can pass a different value. So in this particular case, my function will be more effective and will be able to give me a better result. Now, if it's about the result, you may just print it and it will be end it all. But if you want to return that particular value to some other function, so you can do that as well using the return keyword. So let's see practically how can we start writing a basic function in JavaScript, and then we'll see how can we pass the parameters, and then we will see how can we return the value from the parameter. Now in this implementation of functions, I have placed the script tag inside the head section. As you can see, so far I was putting the script tag in the body because anytime when this page would be loaded, the code inside the script tag will get executed. But rather than executing the code now, I will execute that in a particular event. So I'd be treating the JavaScript code as a resource which will be utilized whenever we require. So here there's a script tag with its function with I have used a keyword called function, and the name is say hello. So make sure whenever you are invoking this particular function, you will have to pass this say hello, or whatever name you are passing to the function, you'll have to pass the name in the very same case. Inside this you can do any logical task which you want. Now here I just printed a message using document.write, or you can go for the alert as well. Hello there, a very simple message. Now let's come to the body, and you see without using the script tag I can call this particular function. How? There's a button which I have for which I have used the input tag of HTML. Type is equal to button, value is equal to say hello, on click. This is nothing but the event on which I am invoking the function. In this particular example, I will only take care of the on click event. In our next video we will cover some more events that can be used for calling the various functions of JavaScript. Now let's execute this particular program, and here you can see as soon as I will click over this button, you will get the message hello there. Let's refresh it, again click, again I got the same message. So this is how you can write a very basic function and can start invoking it. but whenever I will click on this particular button, I will get the very same output. Now, if I want, like, rather than passing hello there, I want to pass a particular name. So I should be able enough to pass some value in this function execution, so that every time I am calling this function, I can pass various values, and using those various values I will be getting the different values in the output. So for that I will use the parameters. So now I have made a minor changes in this program, and in the say hello function I have passed two parameters with the name and age. So whatever you will pass, name is age years old, means that is the message that will be printed. But every time when you will enter a new name and new age, the output will be changed. So in the UI, that is in the body section, I have created a couple of text boxes with the name T1 and T2 respectively. The first text box is to take the name, the placeholder is there, enter name, and for the T2 it's enter age. So whatever value you will pass, when I'll click the button, it will say hello, and the couple of values will be passed here. So first of all, I will pass T1 dot value right here, and then in the second parameter, since it's for the age, second parameter, alright, so it's for the T2 dot value. Make sure the sequence of passing and passing the parameters by the time you are defining it and by the time you are calling it should be same. So as here, the first thing is the age, second thing is the, first thing is the name, second thing is the age. So similarly, I have passed the name first, then the age, because T1 is for the name and T2 is for the age. So let's execute this page now. As you can see, this is the placeholder, alright. So I'll enter any value inside it, like let's enter any age, say hello. Similarly, alright. Similarly, if I'll enter some new value, like let's say Amit 32, say hello, Amit is 32 years old. Alright. So this is how you can start passing the values inside the function body. Now let's say I want to terminate this particular function if no value is passed. So what can I do is I can simply write like if name is equal to blank, or means if any one of the text box is blank, age is equal to blank, then I want to terminate this particular function, and I have something called return keyword which is actually used to terminate the function. So here I am not specifying any value. If you want, you can specify any value as well, like return false, return true, or if any particular processed value you want to return, you can return anything. But here I just want, like, this particular statement should only execute when both the text boxes are filled. So let's execute it now. If I'll say hello, you see nothing is going on, alright. But if I will comment these two lines and I'll refresh, you see blank is years old, alright. So this is not the valid output I want. So that's why I added this particular condition, like this particular document.write statement will be executed only when both the text boxes are properly filled up. If any one is blank, then nothing is going to happen. If both are blank and I entered name but still age is not there, so that's why. Now it is completed and I got the message as well. So this is how you can start working with the functions in JavaScript and can pass the value through the argument and can get the value from the function using the return keyword.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to deal with the events. Since JavaScript is a scripting for a web application which is nothing but a GUI, so event-driven programming is very much related to the GUI applications. And now by working with the events, we are actually going to perform that event-driven methodology. So here, for performing the events, we will use the HTML attributes of the event type, like for example, if I'm taking a button and I want something should happen when I click on that button. So this is nothing but an event. So for that I can go for on click. Similarly, if I want something should happen whenever my page gets loaded, so in the body tag I can pass on load attribute. So on load is nothing but again an event. Similarly, different elements of your DOM may have the different set of events, and you can call the specific methods which we have already done on a particular event, so that that event will be more logical. So let's start implementing the method calls with the events now.
So now in this example we'll cover the couple of more events like mouse over and mouse out. So basically what I have done is, in the body I have taken the image tag in which I have actually not specified any particular image, and I have also not specified the size of this img tag. That means I am taking the actual size of the image here. If you want, you can take the size as per your requirement. But apart from that, if I talk about the events, in the body I have called a method called onLoad. Means this particular event will be fired as soon as the page will be loaded on a particular browser. But at that particular time a particular image will be set to this img tag on the load event. So as you can see here, like the name of this img tag is img1, so I'm accessing that particular image from this load method, like document.images img1, and src means I am setting the source for this particular img tag img1 which is there in the body. There may be a number of img tags in the body, so I am specifying the specific one. Now here I have a couple of images like logo green and logo red. So on the load I want this logo green to be there in the image, but as soon as I will put the mouse over that image, so as you can see here on mouse over I have called a method called mouse over, and there I am setting the logo red.png. That means that particular image will be swapped and the new image will be there as soon as you will be putting the mouse over the image. But when you will move the mouse out of the image, this mouse out event will be called and it will again set the logo green in that image. So let's see how the output is looking like. So this is what the logo green is here. When I'll put the mouse over it, you can see this is the logo red, and now if I'll put the mouse out of this image, again this is logo green. So you can see the effect of the event like mouse out and mouse over. So this is how you can try some more events. In the tutorial you will find the couple of a list of events, so you can try any of the event on a particular control or the tag and you can do the relevant operation on that event.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to deal with the error handling. Error handling is basically a very important concept in any scripting or programming language, because once you write a code and if it gets compiled or interpreted successfully, that means it is fine and now it's good to execute. But during the execution, anytime it may cause something which may result the error at the runtime, and those runtime errors are called exceptions. At the runtime, only the exceptions can be handled. For example, if you have any syntax or logical errors, we will not be able to handle such things. But if it is any runtime error or exceptions, that can be handled. How? We will use some keywords for that, like try, catch, finally, and throw. Each of these keywords has a different significance. For example, all the suspected code which I may think like it may cause some exception, so I will put all that suspicious code inside this try block. So if in case that gives you an exception, that can be handled by the catch block. But if it doesn't raise any error exception, so this catch will not be functioning. If I want manually to raise any exception, I can go for the throw keyword for that. And similarly, I have a finally keyword which will call its particular statements even though the exceptions are not handled. So rather than discussing here, now we can go on the systems and can start implementing the exception handling.
So here in the exception handling, I have created a very simple program here. So here, as you can see in the header, I have a script tag and I have created a function now also with the name myfunc. Now inside this I have taken a variable a in which I have assigned a number, any random number, let's say 100, and after that I will start working the implementation. So basically, as I said, with whatever the statement will feel like that maybe it may cause an exception, I will put all that particular code in the try block. If there is an exception, then that particular exception will be handled by the catch, and after that you may add a finally block which will be executing for sure. So for example, if you are writing something like you are establishing a connection or maybe getting the data from some external machine, so in that particular case there may be some situation like due to some network issues your communication or your execution is not happening properly. So the exception will occur, and if that occurs, the catch block will be in action. So doesn't matter even if the exception is there or not, this finally block basically executes every time. So for example, if you are establishing a connection with some external resource, so if you want to close the connection, you can do that inside the finally block, because if the communication is successful, it's okay. At the end, I would like to close the connection. If the connection is unsuccessful or maybe there's some problem while reading the data, even though I want to close the connection. So such things which you must do at the end of the communication or at the end of the any implementation, you'll have to put that inside the finally block. And now let's say what I have done here, since I just wanted to get an exception here, so what I did, I am just converting this a to the uppercase. But as we see, it is a number and number cannot be converted to the upper or lower case, so obviously I will get an exception. So let's execute this program first without the this exception line. So let's refresh it, and if I click here, so as per the program it will say value of variable a is 100. When I'll say okay, you see there is one more alert in the catch, but that error one is not executed, and then finally the control comes inside here. So finally block will always execute. Alright, now let's remove this comment, save the program and refresh the browser. So here you see the error message is there. Alright, because what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to convert the case of a number which is not possible. So let's say okay, and here you see finally block will always execute. So it doesn't matter whether there is an exception or not, the try block will execute for sure. If inside the try block any statement is causing an exception, then catch, and after catch finally block will execute. If there is no exception, then after catch directly finally block will execute. If you are writing a finally block, it will execute for sure, but it is never compulsory to add the finally block while working with the exception handling or error handling in JavaScript.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to cover the cookies. As cookies is one of the very efficient way of maintaining the state on the client side. But before continuing with this state management thing, let's discuss what this is all about. Basically, when we work with any web application, for the server communication, we need to submit our page on the server side, and then it comes back after submitting the data. In short, we call this process is a post back. So for example, you have requested for a web form which came blank, and you entered some of the values in each text box of that form, and finally you can submit the value. Now when you submit that particular value, this HTTP protocol, which is a backbone of the client server communication in any web application, this HTTP protocol will take the HT, means hypertext of the particular page, but the data which is associated with that web page which a user has entered will not be taken by this HTTP protocol. So in this round trip, means in this post back process, that data may get lost. So in order to not to do that, we have to go for the state management. So whenever you will go for any of the web development technology, in each technology you will find something related to this state management. And here in JavaScript, since we are working on the client side scripting, so here we will do the client side state management using the cookies. So whenever I'll talk about this cookie, that simply means I am going to create a text file on the client's machine, and the location of the text file may vary from browser to browser, as each browser has its specific path to store the data. Whenever a user revisits the web page, some of the data may get read from the cookie, as it is a text file. So even if you will shut down your PC, or you will sign out from that web application, or you will close the browser, that file may still be there. So in order to that, we can go for the cookies. Here we have two types of cookies, such as the session cookie or persistent cookie. Session cookie is something which doesn't have a lifetime, means as soon as you will start communicating with the web application, your cookie will be generated and will work only for that specific session. But you may also add a time span which will make it a persistent cookie, and as soon as the lifetime of that cookie is there, that cookie will still be there unless and until you will remove it manually by going at that location, or you may also remove the cookies from the browser itself. So let's find out practically how can we start implementing the cookies in JavaScript. So here in the implementation of cookies, what I have done, I have taken a very simple form in which a single text box in which I am asking for the name, and a button on clicking on which I will create a cookie. So as you can see, on the click event of this button, I am calling a method called writeCookie, and here is inside this head in script tag we have the writeCookie method. Inside this, what we are doing is, if the text box value is blank, I am just giving an alert and terminating this function, because I want that there must be some name in the text box before someone clicks on the button. Once a user will enter some value into the text box, and whatever the value it will enter, that will store in the cookie value. Alright, so here you can see, like document means this complete page, dot my form, the name of this form, dot customer, customer is what? Customer is the name of this text box, dot value. Alright, so we are actually getting that particular value, and with a semicolon I will assign that particular value in this cookie value variable. I haven't defined that, you can do that as well, like where cookie value is equal to this. It will not make any different. Now after that, what I'll do, I'll just take the document object, and here I will use the cookie property of it, and here what I'll do is I will write name is equal to, name is just a fixed literal string, and I'll concatenate that particular thing with this cookie value, means whatever we have got from the text box, and later I will simply print the value of that cookie. Alright, so once you will use this document.cookie, it will actually create a text file in the your system as per the browser, means next time when you will be back on this particular website, you can see that stored value. So let's execute this page. So here you can see there is a text box. If I will say click and enter some value, because the text box is blank, now I will enter, like I'll say set value, and here you see setting cookies name. Alright, the value means whatever I have entered in the text box. So this is how you can start working with the cookies in the JavaScript. Now Here in this video we are going to do some interactive things. Using some of the methods or timer like concepts, we can actually make some animation like things in your web page, and this will definitely not destroy the performance of the web page, as whatever functionalities we will make, it will all execute on the client side only, so there will not be any post back things happening. So let's see practically how to do some basic level of animations in your web page.
So here inside the body you can see like I have placed the img tag for putting the animation, and here I have 4 images in the same location, that is 1 2 3 4.png. Alright, and the name of this img tag is img1, so that I can access it from the JavaScript code from this name. And I have called a couple of methods which I'll discuss later, but before that let's go to the JavaScript tag to see how I have placed the animation. As here you can see in the very first line inside the script I have placed an array of images in which I have just put the name of the images, as I said, 1.png, 2.png, 3.png and 4.png. So one by one I want these images will be set in the img tag, and for pointing each particular element of this array I have taken the I means index variable which will point an individual element of this array. Now after that I have taken a reference so that I can control the timer and the slideshow which I am getting started. I'll discuss about this ref later. Now inside this function pick library what I have done is document.images. Since you can have a number of img tags in your document, I am asking for the first one with the index 0. Either you can use this particular name also inside this square bracket. So just I wanted to check like the src will be arri. Initially the value of I is 1. The index will begin with 0, but I want that the it should start with the 1. Why? Because by default I have placed the 1.png in the img tag. Alright, so as soon as you will load it, you will see this 1.png, but after a second it will be changed to 2.png. How? Because this will do the thing. It will set the image at the index 1 and then it will do the increment by 1. So 0, 1, 2, 3. If this increment will make it greater than 3, I will reset the value to 0. Alright, and now I will create another function called start. Inside this I have used the set interval method. Basically this set interval method will take a couple of arguments. The first one is the callback function. So here I have passed the name of this function with the name pick library, and it will set like this set interval function will keep on calling this pick library after each 1000 milliseconds. So after each 1000 milliseconds this method will be called again every time the increment will be there. That's why I have taken this particular variable I outside the scope, outside the function as a global variable. Alright, now it will start the things, and now to stop and one more thing, by the time I was setting the interval I assigned the reference of this interval to the variable called ref, which I have defined already. Now in the stop, when I want to stop the slideshow of the images, I will just pass that reference itself, because there may be a number of intervals there in the single HTML page. So I need to specify like which particular interval I need to clear. That means when I'll say clear interval ref, it will stop calling this pick library after each 1000 milliseconds, that is 1 second. And when actually I'm stopping that, as soon as you will put the mouse over the image, it will stop it. Means you can easily see that particular image, but as soon as you will say mouse out, again that particular interval would be set. So you can do that. And one more thing, I want this slideshow to be there, to be started as soon as the page gets loaded. So I can also call this start function on the onload event. So what I'll do, I'll simply say start. Alright,
So now let's come to the browser and see how the output is looking like. So here you can see the different color of logos are there. Alright, so some of them are 1.png, 2.png and all. As soon as I will put the mouse over this image, you see now the image is not getting changed. Alright, but as soon as I will move the mouse out of the image, again this transition will begin. So in the same way, you can use the set interval function for the different purposes, like if you want to change the color of the font or of the background at a particular time, you can just set the logic like this and you can put some animations in the output on the client side.
In this video, we are going to cover the JavaScript objects. Basically, JavaScript here, which we are covering, is an object-based language. So what we can do, we can create an object and can fix some properties into it. Later, as per the requirement, I will be able to retrieve that particular object and the specific property which I want to read. So in this practical, we are going to create a such object, and to retrieve, we will also cover one more for in loop of JavaScript. So let's see now it practically.
Now here you can see I have created the first JavaScript object with the name tutorial, and inside this, rather than passing the single value, I have created multiple properties and have assigned the value in each property. Like I have created a variable or an object with the name tutorial, and inside that tutorial object I have placed three properties, that is topic, trainer and mode. So you can see each three property is having a value. So you can create a separate objects like that with the different properties and can assign the value. You can also create the array of such objects and can put in a separate file which we call the JSON file, that is JavaScript object notation, and you can use very different ways to read that particular JSON file which we have nowadays. Like you can read it from the Node application, from the Angular application. There are a number of ways, but here we are not going up to that level. You can check the different tutorials for that. But here, particularly in this one, I have created just a single object and can read the different properties out of this object. So as here you can see, topic is tutorial, means the object name, and by separating a dot with the dot you can pass the property name like tutorial.topic, tutorial.trainer, tutorial.mode. So make sure it's case sensitive, so you are using in the very same case. So if you will see the output, you can see like topic, trainer and the mode is online. So this is what when you want to read a particular object property by property. But we do have a loop here using which I can go for this object reading, and that is a for in loop. So if I'll see the syntax of the for in loop, you can see here, let me align this first. Alright, okay. So here what I have done is I have taken the text property here, text variable here, which is initialized with a blank. Alright, and then to point the specific property of this particular object, I have used this X. You can take anything. Alright, so now inside this for in, what is there? For X in tutorial, this is the main object, and X will be pointing the specific property inside this object. So you can see like tutorial X. So X means it will start from the 0, then it will point out the first property, second property and third property, and as many as there. So I'll concatenate that all the values, only the values. No, I'm not specifying the property name here, but just the value of each property will be concatenated to this string called txt, and I'm separating all the values with the comma. So if I'll refresh this page, you can see JavaScript, that is the first property value, the second property value, and then online the third property value. So it's all up to you, like how you want to read this specific object, either property wise like this, or you can do all the reading and can store all the values inside this string variable. And as in the string methods we have already done the split function, so later if you want to assign all these different values in the array, you can do that using the split method, and each value will be stored in the array. So this is all about the JavaScript object.